is Steve Laffey's Fixing America. And now, broadcasting live from the Fixing America Command Center in Fort Collins, Colorado, here is your host, Steve Laffey.
Hey, good afternoon, America. Steve Laffey. Great to have you with us today. This is a beautiful Friday. It's a very big day for the Laffey family. I've got to rush out of here, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. Usually I hang around and plan the next show with Boss here, and we go through the next couple of days sometimes. But I got to rush out of here. My second oldest son is trying to get into the military academies, and he's got this physical test that he's going to take, and we've been working on it for 3 months. And we know West Point, the Naval Academy, they're not fooling around with being in shape. In fact, they got this one thing where in fact, try this at home. Get on your knees and try to throw a basketball from your knees. It's really incredibly hard. So I worked for a month to try to figure out. I even got a physical trainer, personal trainer type guy, great guy, Aaron, who had him look at the dynamics of throwing a basketball from your knees and try to figure out where you should put your knees and so forth and how you do it. And I think we figured it out. So I think he'll do fine. We've had him on a certain diet, the Cro-Magnon man diet, to get him in the best shape. And by the grace of God, I hope he does well today. I'll be out there screaming at, as he's running around the track, keeping him going. But I don't do the testing. They have a guy who's an ex-flag officer doing the testing, so that should be fun. But anyway, Steve Laffey's Fixing America. Sort of an unusual show today. We've got this all this stuff about China that I've talked about several times. We've done Fixing America Presents. We've got Laffey Minutes. We've talked about China. It's a gigantic problem, and sometimes people come up to me and say, "So, Steve, what can I do about it?" I mean, I go through the statistics all the time about China and about how many jobs we've lost, which now it's probably up to 3 million jobs since 2001, directly attributable to China and the World Trade Organization and the trade imbalances we have with China, which are terrible. In fact, oftentimes, people are talking about, and I talk about the budget deficit. We've done shows on the budget the deficit, the national debt. We've showed how to balance the budget. But sometimes, you think about the easiest thing we could do is to balance our trade deficit. Our trade deficit is ginormous. Since 1971, when we got off the gold standard, and the gold standard, by the way, was a way of making sure that you didn't have these trade imbalances. You could have tariffs, you could do other stuff and so forth. You could do mercantilist stuff with other countries. But it was a way of getting, when gold started leaving the country in gigantic movements, and you wanted the gold standard, you had to pay out in gold, you did some adjusting in your country to get the gold to start flowing back in. That was the gold standard. And we're off it now. And it would be one thing if these other countries, like China, freely traded their currencies. That wouldn't be enough because, I'll give you an example. This is what everybody should be thinking about when you go into a store. When you go into a store to buy something, think about in North Korea yesterday time. They just took out 80 people in 7 different public locations, told everybody to show up in stadiums, pulled out machine guns, and machine gunned the people to death. 7 over here, 8 over there, 10 over here. China implicitly, has a lot of control over North Korea. And the impression that goes on in China and North Korea, we're partially responsible for. When we buy stuff made in China, they get away with doing this. And we're going to do other shows on China. They just had their third plenum, their third giant meeting, whatever you want to call it, and nothing came out of it. And the articles that were written about it before they went into their giant meeting, this 395 communists who run the country, was all the reforms that were going to happen. And really the guy who runs the joint, like Putin in Russia, just strengthened his own power and said, let's have more state-run enterprises. And here we go. And so China is careening toward a disaster, but we fund this oppression. By the way, in North Korea, the reason for machine gunning people to death is, here's their unbelievable atrocities that these people committed. Were they murderers? No. They steal food? They didn't even steal food. They had Bibles. They were caught with a Bible. Machine gun. They watched a movie. They watched a movie, whatever. They get caught with pornography. Those are the three major things that I read about how 80 people would do. And they were just lined up. They put 10,000 people and said, listen, this is what's going to happen to you. And by the way, North Korea has a policy. It's like 3 generations. They take the 3 generations. So they machine gun one guy. They took his wife, the kids, and the grandchildren, and they disappeared to the gulag, never to be seen again. And that's why we as Americans have to do something. I mean, our politicians will do nothing about this. They're going to do nothing forever about it until someone running the shop, someone who's the president, leads on this issue. Because the congressmen and the senators, they get their money basically from China, indirectly through massive lobbying of multinational corporations, the people who work there. So you ask yourself, what can I do on a daily basis? Well, I became sort of is any issue, and people who know me, I mean, I've sort of become radicalized on this, and not to the point where everything I buy is in America. Everything's American. It isn't. It's nearly impossible. I guess you can get a couple of computers now made in North Carolina. Of course, most Intel chips, I think 75% of Intel chips are made in America. So parts of your computer are made in America, but very few, almost all made in China. But there's a lot you can do. And I do it all the time. I've been doing this for years. And I thought we'd just do a show and talk about, interspersed with all these problems, but talk about what can you do, and just try to give some examples, because people ask me all the time. And the examples go from as small as I got a lot of props today if you're watching. And if you're on radio, I'll just explain it, I'll do what Reagan did announcing baseball games. You don't have to watch. You can just pretend. I can make noises and stuff. This is just some socks the other day. That one, I'm sure there's many a man listening to this that they have no idea what happened to their socks. They get a lot of kids. So I start with 20 pairs. I try to make them look all the same. I don't care if they're all white, all red, all green, whatever they are. And soon afterwards, I got 18 pairs and 16 pairs, and they get dispersed around the house. So when I get down to like 4 pairs, I have my wife, if she would go out, and she does. She does the shopping. I don't go often. But I said I need socks made in America. So these are them. These are Burlington socks made in the USA, right on it. No mistake. We'll talk about some mistakes I've made. But what I do when I walk into every store, doesn't matter whether it's a giant store like Sam's Club where you get some food, doesn't matter if it's the local store. When I walk in, I actually say, where's the American section? And people go, what? What do you, no, where's the stuff that's made in America? Well, you must have a section. Of course they don't. And many people have no idea what I'm talking about. But many do. I say, I didn't buy this. My wife went looking for American socks, and some of the ones made in China, I guess they look a little more fashion forward, let's say. These are Burlington socks, shoe size 6 to 12. That fits me. And maybe they're not as streamlined as the other ones. But you know what? They're pretty cheap. Not any more expensive. Get like 20 pairs of socks. Now I'm good for about 3 months. But it's not just buying made in America. It's asking the people when you go in, I want stuff made in America. Where do you have it? With gloves. Do it all the time at gloves. Store up the road, Jack's. I walk in and say, where are the American-made gloves? It's getting winter. I need some gloves. And generally, they don't have any. But once in a while, they do. Once in a while, they find them. Poudre Valley Co-op. Wherever you live, you could be in New York City today. Wherever you live, wherever you go, you should, when you first walk in and you're going to buy anything, if it can't be made. Now, remember, some things can't be made in America. And sometimes you want something so badly. I mean, if you want a Porsche, I don't guess if they don't make it in America, right? But it's German, so it's not made in China, and Germans are our friends. And by the way, the Germans got they straightened this out a long time ago. They make stuff in Germany, right? In fact, we got to do a show on this. They make stuff in Germany, and the reason they're willing to fund all these crazy countries that are in the euro, like the Greeks, is that basically they're still manufacturing for them. If they weren't manufacturing for them, the whole euro would fall apart. It may still fall apart. But the Germans have got their act together a long time. You don't go into a German store and find stuff made in China. Just doesn't happen. It's not made in China. It's not made in Greece. It's made in Germany. And why is that, by the way? Why is it, when I start talking about this, let's remind ourselves, what's so darn important about having it made in America? Well, generally, when we're talking about made in America, we're talking about manufacturing. And so why is manufacturing so important? And why is the loss of manufacturing jobs affected America even more than if you lost the same amount of jobs with clerks who worked at Sears. Well, manufacturing jobs, they have twice as many, in the manufacturing sector of the private sector, you have twice as many scientists and scientific discoveries in the manufacturing sector per person working there than any other sector. So you're producing new stuff. You're getting ahead of the production operation management curve. You're leading the industry if you're producing stuff with scientists that leads to other industries. You know, it's one of the few industries today. We did a show on this, with so many kids are going to college and majoring in anthropology, and wondered why they don't have a job, and they're showing up at the anti-Wall Street crowd. Manufacturing provides one of the great ways to live a middle-class life, if you're not in management, to this very day, without a college degree, a real skill set. The iron workers of America. You know, my past dealings, I've had many a fight with the public sector unions, not so much with the private sector unions. My father was a private sector union guy. He was a shop steward. My father was a manufacturer. He built machines. He built the machines that made jewelry. He was a tool maker, and there really aren't any tool makers left, I suppose, in America. It's 2/3 of the R&D of the private sector, manufacturing. The research and development. So there's huge benefits, good wages, good benefits. And by the way, and you may live in a town like this, the biggest property tax payer, generally speaking, in many cities, is generally the manufacturer. It's hard. By the way, why? Why for politicians? I mean, I know there's tax breaks to get people to move somewhere, but once they're there, it's hard for them to leave. It's not like a house. It's not like I could get out of here tomorrow morning, right? But manufacturing, the bricks and stones and the machinery and the lead and all the stuff that goes into a giant manufacturing facility, even a medium-sized one, means, you know, the implicit marginal cost of leaving is very high. Sort of the barriers to exit. So for a lot of these reasons, manufacturing is very important. So when we talk about China, we're talking about them manufacturing stuff and us losing it. And where do these people go? You know, classic economic theory is that it goes along this line. It goes along the line of when two countries trade together or two people trade together, both will benefit. His name was Ricardo theory, whatever, back in my college days. But Ricardo never really had to deal in his theories with such disparate economies and such low wage workers in one country and relatively high wage workers in another. That was not what he dealt with back in the day, back in the 1700s or whatever, 1800s. And that's what we're facing today with China. So it's extremely important. And we're going to spend most of the rest of the show going through example after example of some of the stuff I do. And maybe you find it funny. Maybe you think I'm off my rocker on this issue because I really do take it seriously. And everybody knows my little kids, you know, I could get them down here right now and ask them about China, and they know. You know, they know to walk in a store. So I teach my kids. They're heading over to buy some stuff at one of the stores, Jack's today. They got a little my daughter got a $25 gift certificate. She's so happy from the 4-H. And, they're going to try to buy something made in America, I hope. They come back made in China. They know there's a big problem in the house. So anyway, we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with some specific examples. It's Steve Laffey, by the way. We're on Facebook. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. LaffeyRadio.com. Like us at Laffey Radio on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Steve Laffey's Fixing America returns after these commercial messages. What's the latest confirmation of insanity in Washington? Has the whole town gone nuts? Just pick up a paper, tune into 5 minutes of news, or simply look around. Has it ever been as crazy as this? Join Laffey every Tuesday at 3 as he breaks down the most insane news of the week. We call it Newsday Tuesday. Laffey calls it therapy. Only on Steve Laffey's Fixing America.
Call to serve. It has no sound, yet I have heard it in the whispered retelling of honorable sacrifices made by those who have served before me. A call to serve has no form, yet I have clearly seen it. In the eyes of men and women infinitely more courageous and more driven than most. The call to serve has no weight, yet I have held it in my hands. I will commit to carry it close to my heart until my country is safe and the anguish of those less fortunate has been soothed. The call to serve is at once invisible and always present. And for those who choose to answer the call, for their country, for their fellow man, for themselves, it is the most powerful force on earth. America's Navy, a global force for good.
Students, when I call the reason for your absences throughout the years, please exit the auditorium without your high school diploma. Too tired, family trip, sick day, starting the holidays early.
Starting in the 6th grade, students who miss 18 days or more of school in a year for any reason will fall behind and risk not graduating high school. How many days of school has your child missed this year? Absences add up. Keep track at boostattendance.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Army and the Ad Council.
Well, I finally did it. I opened a 401k.
What? Why? Just wait for the inheritance. We've definitely got a rich uncle somewhere. We're one call away from the winner's circle at the Derby, dinners with multiple forks, a vacation home in the country, using summer as a verb.
You don't actually think that, do you?
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs, the Rhode Island Society of CPAs, and the Ad Council.
And now, back to the Fixing America radio program with your host, Steve Laffey.
Steel, the so-called backbone of America, is suffering. The credit crisis has hit the industry hard. Steel plants across the country are hanging on till the new stimulus package kicks in with its over $100 billion for building things like highways, bridges, and power grids, and its promise to get workers back into their hard hats. The package Congress passed this week includes a Buy American clause that the steel industry fought hard for. It says any infrastructure project paid for with stimulus dollars must use steel made in the USA and not cheaper imports.
Yeah, that was back from 2009. Steve Laffey here. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We'll slow up a little bit and tell you actually who we are. We're at LaffeyRadio.com, and we're doing this because we've got to find a way to produce and give out complete solutions to the American public. That's why we started this whole venture. I've written a book called Primary Mistake through Penguin Books. That did a little bit. I made a movie called Fixing America. It's at fixingamericamovie.com. But now we're doing it every day. And we're getting out here because we're sick of people not having solutions. And that's a clip. The show we're doing on How to Buy American today is a clip from the American Recovery Act, the ARRA Act of 2009, $800 billion, mostly a gigantic boondoggle. But in it were provisions that when you about $100 billion to buy American. And, let's put it this way. Every decent paying job, when you look at the CBO, this Congressional Budget Office, they estimate for a lot of these jobs it's about $14,000 into the federal government, into the taxes and so forth over a course of a year. Could be Social Security taxes, could be Medicare tax, could be federal income taxes. Of course, some are a lot more and some are less, but that's sort of what it comes down to in certain types of jobs, especially like oil jobs, manufacturing jobs, so forth. And so there was a provision that was put in, and the U.S. government's about 19% of the economy. It's way too much of the economy. Maybe it's 22% today under Barack Obama, but it's generally been a little bit under 20%, let's say, and it should be less. But if they were buying stuff made in America, well, then that would be helping American jobs. And, of course, who was against this, by the way? Well, first of all, Chamber of Commerce was against it. The Chamber of Commerce is really not with us. And I went back and reread their idea is buy American, sell American strategy. And that their rationale is simple. Sell more to the world and buy more from the world. It's a great strategy, again, if you're a traditional economic, you finished economics 1 or 2 on your macro theory in economics and you don't live in the real world. It really just hasn't worked. So there's gigantic forces. The Chamber of Commerce is a very powerful lobbying group. The big business are powerful lobbying group. And so when you look at all the stuff and put in about Buy American, in fact, I think, boss, if we could, let's play clip 2. This is clip 2. This is Lou Dobbs talking about how everybody got around the Buy America Act.
Show this for all of our viewers. Quote, without sales abroad and access to inputs, many U.S. workers would be out of a job. Now, I think the Chamber of Commerce, gentlemen, rather than tell you what I think of them, you tell me what you think of that organization.
Well, the Chamber certainly doesn't do what's best for middle-class Americans and American workers. We all know what their real purpose is, to help the multinational corporations. And it's sad to see that they have as much influence, and we've seen editorials in newspapers. The elites really do not like this Buy American provision. But I tell you, in my district, 90% of the people say, I don't understand why it would not be there.
That's Lou Dobbs after this came out about the Chamber of Commerce. And so there's large organizations against buying in America. And they have a whole strategy about this. It's really about money, but it's not about American jobs. It's not about the American jobs I see when I drive the country, the ones that have been lost, and the desperate people that we've got to help. And it isn't about helping them by just giving them handouts. What people want, and they still want in America, even though, Mitt Romney talked about the 47% of the people that were against them. They're not. Those 47% of people weren't against them. They turned against them, I think, after we made that statement. His idea should have been to go out and let's go out and find these people. Let's explain. But see, Mitt Romney, as nice a man as he probably is a flyover guy. He flies over the country. I guess he drove the country one time with a dog on the roof. That became a story. But basically flies over the country. He's not living with the regular Americans. He's not sitting out there. His campaign wasn't about let's buy American. And by the way, look what people did. People just ignored the Buy American provisions that were in that law. By the way, the whole law was a boondoggle. Don't get me wrong. I'm using it as an example of how people will just simply be against Buy American, representing large multinational corporations, and how they just ignore the law. In fact, boss, let's go. This is clip 3. This is Democratic Michigan Congressman Mark Schauer talking about what really happened after the Buy American provisions went in.
They are taking products that were made in China and putting a label saying made in the USA and cheating our businesses and our workers out of jobs.
And that's it. That's what they were doing. Taking Chinese products, taking the labels off, relabeling it, and saying it was made in America. And I could go on and on. We have clips of this all day long of people cheating on it. But what we're really trying to get across is that we've got to get our manufacturing base back, and we can get it back. We have cheap energy. But what can you do? I mean, I mentioned socks. If you're watching the show, look what I'm wearing. I'm wearing an American-made Hickey Freeman blazer. Now, Hickey Freeman probably makes the best blazers in the world. They're all made in America. And when I went down to Denver, I needed a new blazer. The last one was like 15 years old. And I'm a pretty cheap guy. I did splurge on this Hickey Freeman blazer. It was about $1,000. And I realized that's very expensive. And you can buy something much cheaper. And it would be made in China. But you don't have to pay $1,000. I figured this out after I bought one of them. I was like, there's no way. I'm just not a guy who pays $1,000 for a blazer. I did once. It did fit the best. It is the best product. It'll last me another 15, 20 years unless I start eating nothing but cookies, I suppose. And I got to do something about it. But I eat a lot of cookies anyway, so probably I just don't gain weight no matter what I do. But over here, and this is one of these things I do, very rarely get out of my chair. Because if you're watching, you want to know. Here's a Hickey Freeman blue pinstripe suit. It's $1,400 retail. I paid $400 for it. Guess how? I have my wife searching how to buy American. She knows I needed a couple of suits. I'll leave it down here. It's a beautiful suit. I got it for $400. How'd I get it? Amazon has these gigantic sales once in a while. I don't know how this happens. And maybe it was $440, I guess. So she saw these things. I said, I forgot what size I am. So I rushed over to a tailor, Debbie, up here in Fort Collins. And I said, tell me what I am. She measured, you're a 44 regular. I said, okay, I'm a 44 regular. So I called her up, and so she got me 2 of them. Now, I had to have them tailored. $80, $90 to have them, whatever it was, to have them tailored. And what's her name? Fiona, lady from South Africa, did this. Who been living in America a long time. So they tailored up my suits. I'm into the nicest suits that you can buy for a third of the cost. So you can do it. You just have to want to do it. And this is the thing that irks me so much. I think people really do want to do it. When I'm with people, they talk about it. And when we made this movie, Fixing America, going across the country, everybody talked about China. Everybody talks about, buying locally. And we'll talk about that after. It's not just about buying locally. It's about buying locally and buying American. But you've got to try. And so if you change your mindset, like anything else, like it's a diet, like it's a changing your lifestyle, you want to lose weight, and it's not about the diet, I got to eat this food. It's changing your mentality about what you're going to do. And I've changed mine. I drive, we have 3 cars, for example. And I've driven Fords, I guess, most of my life. Almost always Fords. Once a Chevy Suburban, didn't work out too well. Got totally ripped off. And I'm pretty cheap about buying these things. But Fords have done very well for me, so I'm a Ford guy. And actually, when I had one of the GM cars, when they took the bailout, as soon as I could, basically, when that happened, I just turned it in for another Ford. I just wasn't going to deal with them after taking that bailout. That totally was the wrong way to go about doing it. And even now, the federal government keeps selling stock and losing money in it. So I bought another Ford. I bought a Ford pickup truck, which are great. I've had Ford pickup trucks now great many years. Even when I had no need to have a pickup truck, I just kind of liked the pickup truck. So I got a Ford Expedition made in America, Ford truck made in America. But I've got 6 kids. And the Ford's getting old, and I have another driver in the family. So so now I'm thinking I need something that seats more than 8. I mean, it's 8 of us, but people come up here to visit all the time. They love to come. I live in Colorado. It's like an open, everybody just open door policy. People show up. We take them to Rocky Mountain National Park. Here's my car keys. But sometimes we have them all together. So I needed something. So I looked at the Ford Econo van, and I looked at the Chevy Express. I wanted to buy American, the ones at 15. I'm like, no, these aren't very good vehicles, by the way, to me. Then I saw this recently, this Nissan NV, and I said, it looks perfect. But then I found out it was made in Mississippi. so I was all excited. So I made sure it was made in Mississippi because we can't. I'm not sitting here saying we only buy it from American companies. I'm advocating the Reagan strategy from the Plaza Accords when he told Japan, hey, you can sell as much as you want, I'm paraphrasing, to America. Just make it in America. We're not going to have a giant trade deficit with you. And Japan, for the most part, did. There's certain cars that they can't, it's not a big production run for some of them. They make them in Japan. They ship them over here. And a lot they make here. They open up plants here. They're employing American workers. And then you have to actually think about it. There's some guy in Mississippi making my Nissan NV. And that means it's not just 3 car companies. There's 4, there's 5, there's 6. So there is more competition. They're competing against each other. The states are using different experiments. Labor union laws in Ohio or Michigan are different than they are down in Tennessee or Mississippi. So that's the mentality we got to have. So I have 3 cars, all made in America. And we'll take a quick break here. We'll come back and talk some more about buying in America. How do you do it? And why it's not just a local thing. It's more than that. It's a buy America, or at least not China, or at least let's buy North American if I can't find it. And sometimes you're going to fail, but we've got to do it. Steve Laffey, LaffeyRadio.com. Follow us on Facebook, and thousands are. This thing is going to take off. We are going to provide solutions about how to solve America's problems and fix it before it's too late. And we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Steve Laffey's Fixing America returns after these commercial messages.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. I go to school with your children. We say the Pledge of Allegiance together. You see me around the neighborhood and you tell me that I'm a pretty good kid. Well, I'm 1 out of every 5 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger. This problem is closer than you think. My teacher tells me we can grow up to be whatever we want. I want to grow up to be someone who doesn't go to bed hungry. There's enough food in this country to feed everybody. Please, Visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help. Every dollar you donate helps provide 8 meals for kids like me, quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we are Feeding America, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
What's the latest confirmation of insanity in Washington? Has the whole town gone nuts? Just pick up a paper, tune into 5 minutes of news, or simply look around. Has it ever been as crazy as this? Join Laffey every Tuesday at 3 as he breaks down the most insane news of the week. We call it Newsday Tuesday. Laffey calls it therapy. Only on Steve Laffey's Fixing America.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's like tiny nails in the air poke my lungs. I start to cough. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
Today, 1 out of 13 children suffer from some form of asthma, accounting for nearly 1/3 of all emergency room visits.
I feel like I'm choking. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. A little whistle sound comes out when I breathe.
But while your child may suffer from asthma, asthma doesn't have to make your child suffer. There are simple ways you can prevent your child's next attack. To learn more, log on to www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA, the Ad Council, and this station.
And now, back to the Fixing America radio program with your host, Steve Laffey.
The last stimulus package was intended to spur production of American products, but some say that's not the case. They claim companies are violating the Buy American Provisions Act. Stacey Mullaney caught up with one mid-Michigan company that says it's lost contractors to foreign competitors.
It's the sound of manufacturing. But here at Full Spectrum Solutions in Jackson, where light fixtures are made, it's a sound workers thought they would hear more often with the recent stimulus package.
When this happened, we thought, wow, it's like winning a lottery. A lot of business is going to be coming this way.
But that didn't happen. And CEO Mike Nevins says that's because local governments around the country largely ignored the Buy American provision.
They just ignored it. You can't even believe that you're hearing this stuff. This is the getting back to just one topic, the Buy American provision. There were companies that ripped off the Chinese labels and put on American labels. Companies just ignored it. Seemingly no one was punished. So it tells you how much the federal government really cares about anybody buying stuff made in America. Zero. Maybe negative. They want you to buy it, because that's where they get their money from. These giant companies are so strong these days, and their lobbying power, and we've done shows in this, it's so great that it's just an amazing situation that the American people are not getting anything what they want. You live in parts of Ohio. I mean, drive the country and leave the beltway of Washington and just drive across the country like I have, and you'll see just devastated cities and burnt out buildings. All manufacturing jobs have left. Not all of them, but those buildings that are empty, they've left. They're not there. It's not like they all just went from the north to the south like some did. Some did. Don't get me wrong. Some did. The work laws in the South are better for companies and manufacturing and so forth. But let's take a quick look too at how hard some states have been hit, because and some of the stuff I even talked about today I get from Robert Scott at the EPI. He's in the movie Fixing America movie. That's how I met him. But I think I'm going to try to play clip 4 here. And boss, if you would, let's just play clip 4. It's Robert Scott at the EPI talking about how hard some states have been hit over the last 10 years in job loss to China.
The hardest hit states were New Hampshire, which lost about 2.8% of all its jobs due to growing trade deficits with China. Number 2 was California, which lost about 2.7% of its jobs. And number 3 was Massachusetts, which lost about 2.6% of all jobs in the state.
I mean, it's a big percentage of jobs when you think about it, just lost, and they're not coming back right now. Take the unemployment rate of 7.3. If it wasn't for China, it'd probably be 5. Well, 5 is full employment, and there'd be higher paid jobs, and we'd be settling our budget deficit as an easy way through settling our trade deficit. So, you know, people are trying, and I've told some stories. I took off my blazer because I've now got an American-made shirt, and this is Rockmont, and down in Denver. I heard they made American-made kind of ranching shirts. So I went down there, and everything in that place is like it's the original store for this. And these things last. I mean, I've had this thing now a couple of years. It lasts a long time. And so it is a quality issue, too. I think a lot of these things are made better. The jeans you see me wearing on the show, I make sure that there's a company called All American Clothing Company. Now, they don't have everything that you can buy. But I buy my jeans there. There's a patch on the back for an extra $3. There's a patch. I'm not going to stand up and show it to you, but the patch on the back says, you know, Made in America, big patch. So I'm advertising Made in America. And I sent emails back to them, even sent an email about doing the show today. But I buy these ranch shirts, or, you know, outside shirts. I wait till there's a giant sale, All American Clothing Company. I buy these things for like, you know, $6, $7. So you can do it. The thing that struck me, and some of the things I've gotten fooled by, there was a store, what's it called? It's been buying up all these boot stores right around the corner here, and they had a grand opening. And I went in, and I said specifically, I've never found, or very rarely have found, these cowboy boots to fit me. My foot must be a little bit weird. So on the outside of the boot was a little sticker, Made in America. And I bought these boots. It was some special deal, you know, half price or whatever, grand opening, boot barn, that's it. So I wore these boots, not these boots, because these are Made in America. I wore those boots for like, I don't know, my wife would say she'd remember 3 or 4 months. One day I just looked inside. Now I look inside all the time. Looked inside. Made in China. I was like, whoa. Took the boots back and said, no, there's nothing, I didn't find the right lady, whatever. Actually gave them to a friend of my wife who had the same size foot as me, and which is great. She took them home. She came to visit. Another one who needed an extra ride in that American-made but Japanese manufacturer, Nissan NV. So then I went back, and not there. I went somewhere else and finally found a pair, and now I looked into it, and these are made by the Double H company. They're great boots. I love them. They fit me perfectly, but it says Made in USA. And so when I go to buy boots, you know, I'm asking people, and I was always shocked up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, when I went to visit there for the first time. There's a store up there that was bought by the Boot Barn, but it was a local place. And half or 3/4 of their boots were made in China. And I was in Wyoming, and what's more American than a cowboy boot or a cowboy hat? You would think they're all made in America. No, when you walk in to buy a cowboy hat, which this one's handmade by the guys up in Estes Park, famous guy named Ted Williams, but no relation, his beautiful wife Susan. They handmade this for me. But I've by the way, let me tell you another thing about buying American sometimes. This thing's going to last me a lifetime. The cheaper ones I had before, they might last me a year out here working with these cows, cattle, so forth, and horses. But I spent a little more to get that one, but I still keep an American-made softer one that I can wear around, cowboy hat. But it's the process of always doing this. And if anybody listening, if we just do this for me, even if you're not successful, and I'm not saying drive to 3 or 4 stores. Heck, I was even trying to figure out how you could buy American-made underwear. And I went online, and some guy decided he's going to make American-made underwear. It's like $21 a pair. Listen, I ain't buying $21 pair of underwear. Just not going to happen. So you can do it, though, and not everything, most everything, but it's part of the process of the way you think. And that's what I'm trying to get across in the show. And if there's anything you want to think about when you're not doing it, you know, and you're going to forget, by the way. You're just going to forget. You're just going to buy. I'm not talking about Snickers bars, by the way, or whatever. I'm just talking about, you know, light bulbs. Light bulbs. You watch. You go in Lowe's. You ask the guy, I want the LEDs. I want this. I want that. There's a brand made in America. The Cree Research ones, I think, are made in America, the LEDs. But ask. You'll find, by the way, they're not any more money. They just happen to be made in America, and they're sitting there right in front of you. Grab those for light bulbs. Tools. I always thought every tool, American, you have to ask. I'm not even sure. I think I might have gotten fooled on my Craftsman tool. What could be more American than a Craftsman toolbox? We were putting this whole thing together, this thing, we needed some tools, and I said, I just have these, I got 3 tools. So I went out and bought some, and now I'm thinking, I better go check that out. I don't think I even bothered to ask, because I just assumed, but I never should. I could go through story after story of doing this. One is simply, here's one for you. I wanted to put a home house fan in my house, and I did. After I was redoing the whole house, and I made sure the guy who was doing everything he did had to be made in America, because you can get sheetrock and insulation made in China, and by the way, they have massive problems with it. So everything was made in America. And then we came across, I wanted this home house fan, because in this area where I live at 5,000 feet, I don't know why everybody doesn't have one. It saves so much energy, cools down the house at night on these hot days, because the temperature drops 30 degrees. Unlike, Mississippi or Memphis or Rhode Island where I've lived, here it drops precipitously. So we found something called, he was going to get one. I said, no, you got to find one made in America. So I looked and looked and looked, and there's one called the Ghost. The Ghost is, I don't know why they call it the Ghost. It's made up on Martha's Vineyard. It's the finest home house fan you can buy in the world. And it saves me, it was like a 1-year payback. But I could have bought one made in China. They had a bunch of other ones. But I asked. And that's what we all have to do. We have to ask. Look at my solar panels on my roof. I said, I got to have them made in America. I got to have them made by an American firm in America. Guy came back and said, listen, it's going to be more money. And he said, here's the other bad news. Guys who put the solar panels on my roof. There's not an American manufacturer that makes them in America. There's an American manufacturer that makes them in Europe, makes them in China. There's Chinese ones that are cheaper, but there's a German manufacturer, Schott, that makes these in Arizona, as I remember. Maybe it was New Mexico, but I think Arizona. Those are the ones I got. How much more did I pay? I don't know, about $600, whatever it was. He told me. But I was willing to do that because I want to be a leader on this. I want to set a tone for this in my family, so they know, and they know when we fail. My biggest failure has been this recently. I have a balcony, and I need a powerful flashlight because I have the ability to go see most of my animals, almost all my animals, if they're resting behind a tree at night. And I don't want anybody hopping over the fence, so I go out there and wave this flashlight all the time when I can't sleep, 1 o'clock in the morning. I had this big American-made flashlight. And it didn't work. It didn't last very long. It was one of those ones because of the batteries, which makes me think about Tesla, by the way. I got a feeling in a couple of years these batteries they have are going to pose a great problem for Tesla, but let the stock go where it's going today. You're going to find it all out at once, probably, about batteries. They don't work as well as you'd like. So this thing died. So I said, well, I couldn't find a great one made in America. So I said, you know what? I'll settle for North America. I went online. I bought the powerful Barracuda from Canada. Come from Canada. I looked online about it being made in Canada. I love the Canadians. I think they're great. Next to Americans, I'm a big fan of Canadians. Oh, I asked him about the shipping. Shipping was free. I'm like, okay, from Canada, seems to be, that's fine. It's a very powerful flashlight. Package came FedEx. I'm looking at it. It was shipped from China. This just happened just now. I'm like, do I send it back? Do I send it back to China? Sometimes you're just going to get fooled. You can't just say, you're not going to win every time. And there's going to be things not made in America, and they're going to be made. And I go through a gradation. If I can't find it made in America and I really want it, I'll go to Canada. It's not Canada. I love the Great Britons. Not Great Britons. I love the Australians, the New Zealand people. The French I'm fine with. I have these boots. I've had them for 15, 16 years before I really got into this Buy American thing, but I bought a pair of boots. And I'll tell you about the boots. We'll take one more break. They're made in France, by the way. Take one more break, and we'll be right back. It's Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We're at LaffeyRadio.com. Tune us in one more break, and we'll go over some of the local buying.
Stay tuned. Steve Laffey's Fixing America returns after these commercial messages.
I am an American soldier. I'm a warrior and a member of a team.
I serve the people of the United States and live the Army values.
I will always place mission first.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never accept defeat.
I will never quit.
I will never leave a fallen comrade.
I am disciplined.
I am disciplined.
Physically and mentally tough.
Trained and proficient in my warrior tasks and drills.
I always maintain my arms, my equipment, and myself.
I am an expert and I am a professional.
I stand ready to deploy, engage, and destroy the
enemies of the United States of America in close combat.
I am a guardian of freedom and the American way of life.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
I am an American soldier.
There's strong, and there's Army Strong. See what it takes at GoArmy.com.
Picture this, your next trip, Utah, 5 national parks. First, Zion. You're walking, the ground rises, the ground drops, the ground becomes water. Next, Bryce. You're riding a mule. You're riding a mule under giant orange drip castles. You are not dreaming. You will not forget this. On to Capitol Reef. Take the scenic route, the really scenic route. Take a path you've never taken and see the stars for the first time. Now for Canyonlands. You're riding a bike. You're riding a bike on Mars. Now you're riding the rapids. Class 2, Class 3, Class 4, Classic. Arches, 5:32 a.m. Some things are worth racing the sunrise for. The horizon lightens. You round the corner. Whoa. This is Life Elevated. The Mighty 5. 5 iconic parks, 1 epic experience. Plan your trip at visitutah.com.
And now, back to the Fixing America radio program with your host, Steve Laffey.
Each and every day, the docks are lined with ships carrying foreign-made products that we once produced for ourselves. Most of these goods come from Mexico, Canada, Japan, and Germany. But our biggest and most concerning trade deficit is with China. With a $295 billion imbalance over us in 2011, the Chinese had the biggest surplus in history. If the trade deficit is costing America both its wealth and its jobs, who is actually benefiting from this broken policy? Wall Street and the multinational corporations that work for their own benefit at the cost of the entire country.
There you are, by the way, Steve Laffey. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. Welcome back for the last segment here. We're talking about made in America, or at least not made in China, and how to do it. How can we do our part? And why is it important? I mean, we played that clip from 2011 just to show you that we could have played 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009. It just keeps getting worse. So when you hear the number $295 billion just with China, that's an enormous number. But guess what? It keeps getting bigger. Let's play a clip from last July. We've got a clip of, from July on Fox News. See how big it gets now.
Meanwhile, the U.S. trade deficit with the rest of the world widened to $45 billion in May. That is the highest in 6 months, as exports fell largely due to the European recession, and imports of cars and trucks surged. Demand for new wheels boosting new car prices, the average transaction topping $31,000 last month. TrueCar says that's the second highest price in history.
$45 billion in a month. Now, you can't just multiply by 12 to get the right number, but it's getting bigger. And by the way, let's talk about yesterday. Let's just move forward. You think I'm talking about things that aren't getting worse? Or, hey, Steve, you know, this thing with China will go away? It was $30.5 billion just with China last month. A new all-time trade deficit record with communist China. Is anybody getting angry yet? Our wealth is leaving the country. Our workforce and the people that we should be fighting for. Listen, I, by the grace of God, my father was a manufacturer, and I was one of these kids that I just studied, and I did okay, and I'm healthy. But many of my friends I grew up in a very lower middle class neighborhood. I loved it, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't even Western Cranston. It was Eastern Cranston. It was Edgewood. And many of the families around there had jobs in manufacturing. There were manufacturing jobs still there. Now, the Japanese imports were a problem at that point. This is the 70s when I'm a kid. And the manufacturing jobs were still being lost, but not at the rate they are today. And people transitioned to other manufacturing jobs. Now, there's nothing to transition to. And it's so much money. It's like $37 billion alone last year, just in lost trade to China. $37 billion in lost wages. What could we do with it? There's something called the multiplier effect. So it's not just the $37 billion in wages, the net loss in wages. You got to multiply by, I don't know, at least 3 probably. It's $100 billion minimum as that stuff works its way. So that guy has a job. He ends up at the store. He buys more food. He goes to another baseball game. That guy employs someone selling peanuts. All the inner workings of the miracle of Adam Smith's description of the invisible hand of capitalism. But we're missing that. We're missing it now. And I've been talking to you about all the ways I've been trying to buy stuff. And I could go on. I will. I'll tell you a couple more stories. But first, there's this whole thing about buying local. And that's really important, too. I try to go to this is a farmer's market up here. I go buy some meat. We get eggs from our chickens, but I buy some eggs. I buy some whatever they're selling. I almost don't care because they're just local farmers. And I try to make sure now, by the way, this local farmers markets, you can find out that it's not even local. They just bring stuff and say, hey, I'm a farmer. So you have to make sure it's the farm that's selling the apples and so forth, and the peaches that we get out of the mountains are unbelievable here. So we do that. But there's American Express has done this, and they're doing it again this year. They do a whole thing on a small business Saturday. And it's a great notion. Let's go shop at small businesses on Saturday. Let's play the clip, boss, and come back and talk about what they're really missing.
Get ready, here it comes. November 26th, the day after Black Friday, is the second annual Small Business Saturday.
Small Business Saturday.
Small Business Saturday.
Small Business Saturday. A day when we all shop small, coming together to celebrate America's small businesses.
I cannot wait.
What can you do to get ready? We went to the experts, small business owners like you, for inspiration. Every day they're doing simple, amazing things that we can all learn from.
We have a lot of ways of communicating with our customers. Facebook, Twitter, our weekly email.
They're promoting their businesses.
We're adding a lot of pictures, videos of us block printing.
They're creating offers.
I can't count the number of people that have told me their friend posts on Foursquare, they got a free drink at Mod Market.
They're rallying their customers.
I said, let's have this music festival called Garden Stock, because we're gardening.
Now American Express wants to help you turn Small Business Saturday into what could be your biggest sales day of the year. We've got the free tools and social media help you need to make November 26th a success. From tailored Facebook ads to in-store signage to tools to create turnkey offers. Everything to help you get the word out and bring in customers.
On a Small Business Saturday special, buy one, get one free or 10% off.
We are just thrilled and jacked and ready.
There are thousands of other small businesses out there. They're all walking the same journey that I am.
Come on, guys, let's go.
Small Business Saturday, November 26th. Join the day.
And that's last year's commercial from American Express. I think it'll be a different day this year. It's a great idea. Thank you, American Express. Played the whole ad for you. What's missing? People are going to be going in, helping that local business, helping that one guy, and most of the stuff's going to be coming out of China. How about buy local and American? How about they don't even bring it up? They've missed the giant picture. But just by buying local isn't really that helpful. And it's better than to get on a plane, I guess, and going to some other country and buying stuff. but that they missed the whole part. So we of a country have missed this from the top down, not from the bottom up. Everywhere I go, every poll I read, people understand this is a giant problem. But we're just one small cog. And that's when I was the mayor. I always had things for people to do. And I've got something for you to do. Do what I'm doing. And listen, I'll be running for office one day, I suppose, and there'll be something that's, Laffey talked about this, but he has some product made in China. I just showed you. I got one that shipped. How could it say from Canada on the outside? It was shipped from China. I've made mistakes, but I try. Our whole family tries. My children know about this. They try, and we ask about it, and we're vocal about it at the local level. Every store I go into, big or small, I ask, where's the American section? I mean, it's a little tongue-in-cheek because there's not an American section when you're an American store. There won't be an American section. But there might as well because so few stuff. It's like having the organic section over at Walmart, right? Or Kroger's, or whatever grocery store you show up at. There's an organic section. Well, they don't have it. The amount of stuff made in America in many of these places is so small. It might as well be the American section for the people trying to save American jobs. I mean, when you do this, think about the steel worker. You know, we have great steel. We have very competitive. Now we have very competitive natural gas, very competitive energy. We can do this, but it's going to start with us rising up one by one, saying, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We're not going to do it. And listen, if China wants to make the underwear, we'll give them the underwear. I'll even give them the socks. But they're stealing our secrets. We've been through shows like this. They're making military jet fighters out of this technology and the drones that they're building that look exactly like ours. This is a great threat to our children. So to sum up, I mean, by the way, I'll tell you, I think I have time for one last story and how I think I really changed stuff. I was trying to buy some fencing. I mean, heavy metal fencing for corrals. And there was some beautiful stuff, dark green out of Wisconsin. I called the lady on the phone. We had a great chat about it. And I told her about my movie, Fixing America movie. I sent her the trailer. And she called me back about this is a small mom and pop shop out of Wisconsin making fencing. And they called me back. The lady called me back and said, I don't think you're going to buy our product. I said, what's the matter? She goes, we make it in China. I said, I thought your husband invented it. And this new weighted system of putting it into the steel. I said, yeah. I said, steel's heavy. How could it be made in China? She goes, it's just given the trade situation and how much cheaper it is and so forth, it's cheaper. So they ship it all the way to Wisconsin. And I said, no, I can't buy it for you. And I bought pre-fit panels. They're sitting out around the barn. And they're made in Texas. And they're great, by the way. The pre-fit panels are great. Don't get me wrong. They're great. I was just going to help out this small company. But I asked. I'm sorry. She figured it out, and she was nice enough to call me, and I hope I had an effect on it. You can have an effect. This lady felt terrible about it. Terrible. Because I laid in about the oppression in China and so forth and how it's hurting our jobs. And she felt terrible. So we can all do it. I've given you some examples today of how important it is. 2 times as many scientists work in the manufacturer as any other sector. They're the biggest taxpayers. It's the greatest job. If you're not going to college, you can support them with the benefits and so forth, manufacturing jobs. There's a whole reason to do this. But unless we start doing it, and I guess I got to get in another RV and start driving around so we all start doing it. But we've all got to start doing this. We can fix the trade deficit easier than the budget deficit. And that's what we've got to do. It'll fix the other one. It'll help fix the other one, not by itself. But fixing this trade deficit, of which more than half of it is China, can be done without a lot of problem. We can generate billions of more income for Americans and get better products. They do it, by the way. We should do it. Steve Laffey's Fixing America. We're at LaffeyRadio.com. Tune in Monday. We'll have another great show for you. Follow us on Facebook at Laffey Radio. God bless you. We're signing out. Steve Laffey. Everybody have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Steve Laffey's Fixing America radio program on the Laffey Radio Network. Fixing America is broadcast Monday through Friday afternoons at 3 p.m. right here at www.laffeyradio.com. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, or account of this broadcast without the express written consent of Laffey Network, LLC is prohibited.